swing for the fences because you never know. Keith David was my first choice. And when we got the email, when are you guys shooting? And we were like, when do you want us to shoot? And they're like, what? Pick a day. And we're like, okay. I would say it really doesn't hurt to ask, and then don't take it personally if they say no, because for
Right,
all you know, they're spending 6 months on a Marvel film and they just can't do it.
right. Good afternoon, filmmaker Woody Bess of Portal to Hell. Woody, how are you today?
Good, I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm thrilled you're here. I saw on the Portal to Hell's Instagram, which is a fire account, by the way. It's constantly updating content, which I think is important going into a film premiere. But today, like you highlighted, or the account highlighted sort of all the jobs you did as part of this film. You're a writer, cinematographer, director, and it's a fantastic film. I hope everyone at Slamdance, where it's premiering, enjoys the film. But is that something that you like enjoy doing, like all those tasks, or is it something just by the product of an indie film that, hey, I have to wear all these hats to have it at the quality I want to have it at?
Yeah, it's mostly budget, to be 100%
Right.
honest. Of when we were in a more controlled set, instead of a sound guy, I would just sling the boom on a C-stand just to save us. I do enjoy like shooting and directing. Like it's like you really get to have your hands on everything, for better or for worse. Yeah.
And it's a fantastic film. I loved it.
Thank you.
I love the tone of it. Right? Is it like there's a certain way you can do horror in a way that makes it campy, and it's okay. It's going in campy. You didn't do that. You could also do horror as like this satire and this super serious. Not that either. So you're able to merge both of those into sort of like a tongue-in-cheek serious film, if that makes sense. And I thought that really made Portal to Hell really an outstanding watch. How did you get that kind of like knowledge about making film? Woody, is it something like early on you like just watch a bunch of films and you became a filmmaker that way, or was it something else like you through writing that you got into filmmaking?
Yeah, no, I watch a ton of films and then on every set I could be on and just tried to sneak my way closer to the directors just to see what they were doing and what worked and what didn't. And then for Portal specifically, we were able to reshoot a good amount because like me and Trey, who's been like he's the lead actor and the producer and
Okay.
my partner on this, like we shot everything in my apartment. And then like we reached out to talent and then like I still don't know how we got like Keith David to
Oh my
come
God. Yeah.
in. Yeah, and then like we shot those scenes and it was like way more grounded than what we had shot before. So we had to go back and reshoot a lot of what we had done to make sure that tone matched. Like we it's I don't like it's something that like just evolved throughout the course of filming.
And it's fantastic. So the film Portal to Hell is about a character Dunn, which do people most people you talk to get that like the name is like the Dunning of collection calls, or is that something that flies over the head of most people, or how?
I don't yeah, no one's flagged it yet except for you.
I just thought that was funny to have a collection guy who does collections at Dunn. It just feels like an older word though, so I don't know how many people got that. But it's about this guy and he's like dunning collections calls, and they find like in a laundromat that there's this portal to hell, and it's like one of the first jokes of the film. It's, oh yeah, is that a portal to hell? Yeah, it's a portal to hell. And it's like everybody knows what it is. And it's like this jokey aside of the audience, which I love. And it just goes to from there in terms of connecting the collections to the portal, and it's just fantastic. So, did you write the script? Did you have the script already done before you started shooting? And then you brought on the characters.
Mhm.
How did that walk me through how the film was made, Woody?
Yeah, so like I wrote the entire script before we shot anything. And then we actually shot over the course of 2 years, mostly because I guess our theory of the case was like we'll hold for talent. And if we were lucky enough to work with the Keith David and Richard Kind, like we'll make it work for their schedule. There's also like a strike in the middle of that, which cost us
Right.
some time. And then yeah, like we're constantly like tweaking the script and as we like reshot to make the tone match a little bit better. But yeah, we just like in between our shoots for Portal, like I would have to do gigs to pay for it and then come back and be like, okay, I just did this music video, so we can work 3 more days on Portal. And that's just how we piece it together.
Was that something that the funders required, like the name talent? And these are phenomenal. Keith David, Richard Kind, like
Yeah.
most people recognize them as just these fantastically talented actors that you don't normally see in independent film. So is that more fun driven, or was it more like, Woody, you were just like, I know I want to have these kind of well-known, serious, great actors in these roles rather than just going on Backpage or whatever and finding actors.
Yeah, no, like no, definitely. I'm just like a huge fan. Like I am the biggest Keith David fan, and I like it was even when I like was writing the script. I like told Trey, there's this guy who like I just think he's the best, and like
He makes it. He like you must have told him like just you can riff this as much as you
yeah,
want, and it's Keith David times 10 if people can imagine that.
yeah, he's just because I remember me and Trey went over his house the day before our shoot and did the first rehearsal, and we were just both looked at each other and were like, "Whoa, he is delivers dialogue like a like muscle car. He's crazy." So like it wasn't like we weren't thinking of how like these actors will like help us like find. It's more just we're just fans, and yeah, and like Richard was a fan of Keith as much as me, so that's probably why like he signed on. But they, sorry, I got a little dog coming up.
And these are juicy roles. Like, so horror, did you always want to do a horror film? Because I feel like you can come up with these fertile ideas of horror in a way that also is marketable, right? There's so many films you can be, I'm going to do a drama. It's like you're
Mhm.
jumping in with a bunch of other independent films. It's hard to distinguish, but I feel like horror as a genre is very fertile in the sense it's easier to find funding, it's easier to find distribution, easier to find an audience, all of those things. So this is a very juicy roles for these actors. Did you always set in mind to do horror, or and then do you see that genre the same way?
Yeah, no, I just love horror as like a as an audience member. Like it's mostly like what I watch, and I
Okay,
just think there's so many like very creative. It's almost like it's a genre where there's not as much pressure, or there's a little bit more freedom to do whatever you want as long as you deliver for horror fans. I'm like just a huge horror fan. And then a lot of filmmakers like I admire, if you go back, a lot of them just did it and like they just made a film and did what we were doing. A lot of them worked in horror, like Edgar Wright and Mike Flanagan. They like the genre is just, I think the audience is just more enthusiastic or even forgiven as long as you hit the horror notes that you can use that as a way to hopefully say something different.
that's fantastic, and it's a great addition to the horror genre. So why Slamdance? Is it because of the indie filmmaker background of the medium? Do you feel like it's both celebrating indie films and a market festival? Do you want it to be both? What do you think the role of festivals is in independent film right now?
Yeah, for sure. For Slamdance, they've always been like this outside of like the studio system for DIY
Yeah,
filmmakers, and that's like how we got it. And then this is also Slamdance's first year in LA, and we shot
right.
almost everything in LA. We shot Richard's scene in New York because that's where he lives. But yeah, and then the role of festivals is hopefully finding an audience or then building fans for the film as you go and try to sell it or stream it. But it's great. I've applied to Slam Dance many times with short films over the years, and this feature is actually my first time getting in. So we're really, yeah.
Woody. That's awesome. So do you have an idea of what's next for Portal Hell? Obviously, premiering Slam Dance. I think the audience is gonna love it because
Thanks.
it's a
I hope so.
fun film. Though I think to watch. I unfortunately had to watch on my computer, but I think it'd be a fun film to watch in a theater, and I think that part of it is going to be a lot of fun. Do you have an idea over the next few months of when people would be able to watch it?
Yeah, I think we're still Slamdance will be like our world premiere, and then we're applying to like other festivals, and then hopefully it's like the part of filmmaking I know the least about. It's like
Right.
what you do with a film actually when it gets made, but like we have hopefully a sales agent who's gonna help us get it out there.
Because that's one thing I noticed, Woody, is that like normally when I'm talking with somebody about the podcast, I Google and try to find like social media, and I couldn't really find anything on you. Like it was
Oh
like
yeah.
okay, this guy has like a very limited social media platform. Is that something that obviously was intentional, but is that something like, do you feel like is that just what you're comfortable with? Or do you ever feel like you might have to change that to promote your film? Or you're always
Yeah.
just going to say, fuck it, this is how I feel. I'm not going to start doing something that's inauthentic just to try to make someone else happy.
No, yeah, I haven't had it since I think like 2016. I got off and like
Wow.
purely just for like mental health of like I
Right.
was just or and productivity of like I was just like scrolling and then I had just graduated USC and you would see like pictures of your like fellow classmates and they're on set and I'm like doing like a 9 to 5 and I was like, oh man, I really like I'm an idiot. Like I should have like just freelance. I honestly I don't know if I'm making a mistake in terms of not posting every day, but like the kind of like thought process I had was like it's almost like a full-time job and I'd rather spend the time if I could build a social following or write a script. Like it's more important to write a script, but I could be completely. I don't know if I'm naive and that's just not the world we live in. So I might have to change that. But yeah, that was just gonna be the thought process. But it wasn't like a career strategy. I was just like, this is overwhelming. I don't want to be out here anymore.
Completely, and there's so much of it that seems like divorced from the process of filmmaking, like, creating thumbnails and, putting hashtags and stuff like that. That is definitely a job. Like, it's certainly like it's a full, like you said, a full time job, and it requires like a lot of knowledge to be able to get it right. But it's like, is that the best use of a director's time when they could be writing or like creating a film? Is learning how to put something on social media? I don't know the answer to it too, but I feel like a lot of indie film directors feel like they have to, simply because it's, required to, having a social presence is required to promote the film. So maybe I'll check back with you in another year when you have like your socials and you did it to get Portal to Hell at where you
Yeah.
wanted it to be. Can you talk a little bit about what's next for you? Or are you working on any other projects that you'd want people to know about?
Yeah, I'm always like, and like I try to every day, and if you can write five
Wow.
pages a day, you can churn out scripts, and hopefully those go somewhere. But I really like Portal's a horror comedy. I really want to make scary horror that has is terrifying first, and then maybe has a couple of jokes. That's what I really want to work on next. Yeah,
Do you feel like comedy is specifically maybe the hardest type of film to make, because it's, you don't necessarily know what's going to land with the audience? You know what might land with you or your
yeah,
friends or other people that are close to you, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's like the general audience. So do you feel like you almost started with the hardest part of the genre first, of trying to get people to laugh while looking at,
yeah.
going into the portal to hell?
Hopefully we could make people laugh. I guess like my mentor when I was in school, like he was like a his name was Barnett Kellman. He did like Mad About You, and his like theory was like comedy is truth and pain, and if you can make someone laugh, that's like the hardest thing, and that's why so many comedic actors
Right.
um, can do drama. And not every dramatic actor can turn around and do comedy. It's like if an actor can make you laugh, like they really they get it. So hopefully we did the hardest thing. It's easier to be like to scare people than it is to make them laugh. But also telling a joke and getting a scare, they both kind of work on the same timing principle. So
Right.
it would be fun to really play with a film where you don't know what you're going to get anytime the kind of tension ramps up. It's either going to break in a joke or break in a scare.
That's a fantastic point. And it really comes back to casting, which I think in your case has helped out a lot. But do you attribute it to the quality of the script, the casting director that you might have had, that you were able to bring on such great actors? Is there any advice that you can give, like an indie filmmaker who's looking to cast some phenomenal actors like that?
Yeah, we didn't have a casting director, and we just, or Lucas, our producer, filled that role of reaching out to agencies. And my advice is actors want to act. Keith went to
Right.
Juilliard. He's an actor's actor, and it doesn't like worst case scenario, they're just
They say
busy
no.
and they say
Yeah.
no. And swing for the fences, I was shocked. Keith David was my first choice. And when we got the email, when are you guys shooting? And we were like, when do you want us to shoot? And they're like, what? Pick a day. And we're like, okay. I would say it really doesn't hurt to ask and then don't take it personally if they say no, because for
Right.
all you know, they're spending 6 months on a Marvel film and they just can't do it.
Right. Oh, that's such a fantastic and that's such a fantastically motivating story of just like shoot for the fences. It might happen, and you might get this a fantastic film like Portal to Hell that has just phenomenal act. Like just like it makes the writing is great, but then you look and the acting is great. Just a phenomenal film, Woody, and you should be very proud of yourself. This is an indie film podcast. Love hyping other people's projects. It sounds like you have a collaborative nature as part of your filmmaking. Two-part question: is
Yeah.
there any film at Slamdance? Of course, so many of them are great, but is there any film that you're specifically looking forward to watching, other than your own, of course? And then indie films in general. Is there a film or filmmaker that you wish more people knew about?
Yeah, I think I'm looking forward to. There's another LA film called Lockjaw. Sabrina, I believe Greco directed it. I really want to
Yep.
see that one. And then, God, I hope I don't mess up. Vile Evil Deeds is another one that kind of seems like tonally it's similar to ours. But I'm trying to see everything at Slamdance. I really want to make the most of the festival. And then films like I've watched recently, God, the director actually, there's a film called Mads. I believe it's on Shudder right now. MAD
Okay.
lowercase s. It's a French
Ooh,
film. Yeah,
nice.
it's a French horror, and it's all one 87-minute take. And
What?
yeah, and it's like the director was like, very, this isn't like a stitch. We're not digitally stitching. We're doing this. And also, it basically tells like the zombie outbreak, and it jumps from three characters, and you're following the virus essentially. But like those three characters, French unknown actors, like three of the best performances like I've ever seen. So it's an incredible film. And I really like horror's like always been about the roller coaster ride, and doing it as like a one take is like where it's just immediate and real. Like it's a really special film if anyone has a Shudder subscription. The
Oh,
director, God, I should know
wow.
his name. It's French and I'm terrible at pronunciation, but he did like The Eye with Jessica Alba. Like he's done studio
Okay.
films, but like he kind of just made this indie. Um,
Oh, I love that. That is fantastic. I'm gonna have to check that out. Woody Best, the film is Portal to Hell. It premieres at Slamdance. What dates does it premiere, Woody?
it's Saturday, February 22nd at 8:30,
Okay.
and then
Okay.
Sunday, February 23rd at 10 p.m.
I feel like this is like such those are such great dates to be on. Like this film is going to do so well. It's going to have so I just can't wait to see what the audience reaction is going to be for you. It's going to I think people are really going to relate to it. The acting performances are fantastic in this film. Go check it out. Portal to Hell. Woody, thank you so much for braving social media interviews and coming out and doing this. It's been a fantastic conversation, and I'm looking forward to following your career.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. You're my very first interview, so I appreciate it. And thank you for your service.